If y'all used to drink that water hose water, I bet y'all got a strong immune system. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So yeah. Greetings everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel if y'all are new here. My name is Cassandra, I'm the witch, author, and poet of Magic of Eden. Welcome to your new spiritual safe haven. If y'all are returning, what's up family? Welcome back to our sacred garden. I'm always honored, excited, and elated to be in your presence. I was supposed to make this video 5 videos ago and I'm just now doing it. Procrastination gets me every single time. But not today because I don't care how long it takes me. I'm going to get through this video. I can do this. I will do this. And most importantly, I am free from overthinking. Okay, so anyways, as you can tell by the title, this is going to be a very short and compact story on how I knew that I was gifted. And it's super interesting because I actually did not know that I was gifted. I actually believed that there was either something wrong with me or something wrong with other people. And I say that because I did not realize my gifts until I understood that I was someone who was purposeful. And before me even figuring that out, I went through a lot of trauma. I went through a lot of rejection. I went through a lot of isolation. I went through a lot of bullying. I went through a lot of abuse. Like there were so many things that made me feel that there was either something wrong with me or wrong with people. I know that we're diving right into this, but these are all just the thoughts that I have. And this is me making a very authentic and honest connection with you guys. It's not to say that my other videos, it's not me being honest with you. It's just saying that with me in this moment, I'm more up close and personal and having a discussion with you regarding me, right? My backstory on my intuitive gifts without me, I guess, being of service in a way that I'm used to being of service. So shout out to the queen that asked me this question. It's so interesting because I was supposed to make this video at least like a couple of months ago, at least I think, right? Because what is time? So getting into it, right? So I have always been intuitive. I have always had this really strong connection to witchcraft and to the universe, to the spiritual realm. I just did not understand that because I was so young. Now, first things first, for those of you guys that don't know me, my work or my niche is merging the arts of poetry and magic. I was a writer and a poet before I was a witch, or before I discovered that I was someone that loved to practice, witchcraft, and someone that practices, I guess people like to say the term elemental alchemy and things of that nature. I guess there's people that say things like that. They don't call it witchcraft. Call it what you will. I know that I'm someone that loves working with the elements. I love working with fire. I love working with wind or air. I love really working with all the elements, but my strong suits are earth and fire. And then there's also air because of my intellect, because of writing and things of that nature. I had to come back and add this because I want you guys to know that I also obviously have a very strong connection to ancestral energy. So a lot of the things that I do and that I used to do, I felt were guided by the ancestors that came before me. Now, again, I thought that this was something that would be obvious, but I'm editing the video now and I'm realizing that maybe not everybody would think to believe that or think to know that. So to me, it would be obvious that I would practice hoodoo because hoodoo is my predominant working. I use hoodoo as a working aspect, and then I also use witchcraft as the more structured aspect, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm going to go into this in another video because I actually had to teach myself these things because the elders in my family were Christian. Like, of course, they did things the hoodoo way, but in their eyes, it was them being Christian. So again, like I said, I definitely would always do hoodoo. It is a non-negotiable because it keeps me connected to both my African and American Indian ancestors. So the first, I guess I would have to start off with the first memory that I had. And the first memory that I had was, it had to have been back when I was young. I think I might have been in like elementary school, and I've always been a very lucid dreamer. Like I used to always have these dreams when I was a child about me leaving my body, and I would have to tell myself that you have to remember where you are, because if you don't, then you're going to lose your body and you're never going to wake up again. I did not know how I knew this as a child, but I was in elementary school dreaming like this. Like there was this one time where I was like, I had left, like I went to sleep and I left my body, right? And I ended up like going into like this cubicle, and I was like, okay, when you want to wake up out of this dream, you need to find this cubicle. It was so weird. And I was like in a maze and whatnot. And like I left the cubicle and I ended up forgetting where the cubicle was. So in the dream, I was super panicked and I was like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? Like, if I don't find this cubicle, I'm not going to find my body. Again, I knew nothing about lucid dreaming. All I knew at that time, I had to be, I want to say like 7 probably. Like I would have dreams like that. Like I would experience sleep paralysis. I would experience like these worlds in my dreams. It was so crazy. Like there's moments where I could fly in these dreams and it would feel so real. Like it would just feel so real. But anyways, so I've always been a very strong lucid dreamer. Now here's where things start to kick it up a notch. For those of y'all that know me behind the scenes, y'all know that I'm a Papa's girl. I love my Papa, rest his soul. He was my main man. Him and my grandmother took care of me the first 2 years of my life, right? And I had a really strong connection with them, of course. I remember when I was, I believe, in elementary school, and my grandfather got sick, and he actually fought in World War II, and he was an Aries, okay? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So I just love my granddad. So yeah, at the time he was getting sick, like, right? Like he had a seizure, he had a stroke, I believe. He lost his ability to walk, and it was just like, it was bad. Like he started to forget things, you know, he would repeat things that people would say, and he was just kind of like losing it, you know, slowly but surely, you know, at the end of his life. And I remember this one time where granddad, Papa, he was in a hospital, and I remember having this dream. I was at my grandmother's house at the time. It was me, my grandmother, and I believe it was my aunt. I can't remember which aunt it was. And I remember having this dream. Now in this dream, Papa or grandpa was up walking around. He had on all white. He was walking. He actually ended up bending down by the table, and I remember him picking something up, and it was him, and it was like my family at this dinner table. Funny enough, I wasn't at the dinner table, but my family on my dad's side was at the dinner table, and I was basically viewing this first person. And it was so interesting because I was like, wait a minute, like granddad's up walking around again. Oh, he's gonna be okay. And in the dream, he had on all white. So at the time, I'm thinking foolishly like, oh, granddad's gonna be okay. So I go run and tell my grandma, like, grandma, I had a dream that granddad is gonna be okay. You know, he was walking around in my dream and he had on all white and things like that. So she looks at me and she was just like, she just looked at me, and I was just like, okay, like, I don't understand, like, why she's looking at me like that, but like, am I in trouble? Like, what's going on? And so she ended up calling one of her friends, and I can't remember the exact conversation because it was so long ago. I just remember her telling me to tell her the dream again. So I told her the dream again, and she had like this relief, but then it was also like sadness, and I couldn't understand it because at the time I was just like, I don't understand, like, why she's looking this way, because granddad's gonna be fine. Well, about a week later, if I'm not mistaken, granddad actually ended up passing away, and I was upset and I was angry because I'm like, how is it that I had a dream about grandpa who clearly was up walking around in my dream, but how is it that he passed away? Like, I don't get it. And I carried that with me for a while. Like, I was this little kid who couldn't understand like why her granddad was okay in the dream, but then in waking life, granddad had passed away. To me, it was just one of those things like, I just don't understand, like, why would God do that to me? Like, I thought that God was supposed to be this, you know, this man that was supposed to give us, you know, love and supposed to, you know, give us the right answers. Why would God send me that dream? You know, I was just so angry and just so mad. Like, I was really upset. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. How I felt, I guess, really isn't important. The important thing is that is one of the first memories that I have that lets me know that I was gifted as a child. Again, I was a writer before I was a witch, and also I did descriptive writing before I did poetry. And I actually had, again, a very strong connection to words. So I remember being in like elementary school, and just, I know that this is kind of like everywhere, you guys, so I promise you I'm gonna bring it around full circle. I promise, to stay with me. I remember being in like elementary school, and I always had this really strong connection to witches and wizards because I found them a lot more interesting than the Christian stuff, right? So I would be in church pretending to read the Bible like I knew what I was doing. I would just sit there like, oh yeah, okay, but then it would just be so boring to me. Like, I didn't feel connected to it at all. Like, I used to fall asleep in church. Like, it was just so bad. I did not care for it at all. Like there were moments like where I would, I would engage and things like that because I felt like that's what I had to do. But all I know is that from a very young age, I felt a lot more connected to the Harry Potter books, to the movies with the witches in it, to the movies with the wizards and the mystical creatures. And I always felt myself gravitating towards those things to such a degree where I would go outside and play and pretend to make potions. Like I would use grass and, water hose water. For those of y'all 90s babies, y'all know what I'm talking about. 80s and 90s, y'all know what I mean. The water hose water, right? You would put that, I used to take that water and like put it in like little teacups and whatnot, and I would take the grass and then I would put it in the teacups. Oh my God, you guys, so wild. So yeah, I would do things like that and I would pretend like those are my potions. Like I would pretend that was my tea because to me it was real. It was like, okay, this is my potion. It's gonna make me feel better. It is what it is. And y'all know that if y'all used to drink that water hose water, I bet y'all got a strong immune system. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I would do things like that and I would just play outside and pretend to be this mystical person. Like I used to be so in love with the moon. I used to believe, you guys, that the moon followed me, and I did not understand. I just thought that she was just so beautiful and that she must have followed me because she loved me that much. I was so delusional as a child, like not kidding. I believed that. Like I believed strongly that the moon loved me so much that that's why she would follow me. But then I understood, okay, you know how you get older, you go to science class and it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. Anyways, so yes, like you have this kid, right, who was just so in love with these elements, right? But also I gravitated towards books a lot as well because I felt more at home. Like I didn't feel at home in the real world so much because I felt that I was so just different from my peers. I was at the top of like pretty much majority of my classes growing up in elementary school. I remember we had to do like this descriptive writing paper, and I was one of those kids that would go ask the teachers, hey, can you tell me a big word that I can put here? But they wouldn't help me. Like they said, okay, well, you have to figure it out yourself. So I would sit there at home thinking, okay, how can I write this paper? Like what words can I use? And one of the things that I always told myself growing up is that the words are out there. You just have to find them. And that was my saving grace all the way from a child. Mind you, this was me doing this myself because I felt like, okay, I needed to get this done. Like, I don't really know like who I can go to really for help this much. My mom, she works and all the different stuff. And like, this is supposed to be an assignment where we're supposed to use our mind. So I would sit there and tell myself that the words are out there. You just need to find them. And here you have this kid who's like in the third or, second, third, and fourth grade who's saying this to herself to figure out how to write these or how to formulate these words or how to put these words together to create this story. And I don't remember exactly what grade I was in. I remember though being in elementary school, mind you, these are part of my early years. I remember writing this descriptive paper that was so well, right? And it was so good to where they read that paper in front of the class, but then they took that same paper and then they put it behind the glass when you walk into the main building. And I remember I would walk past that glass like, man, I really wrote that. And it made me feel so good because I felt like I was already different. I was teased right growing up because I was one of the smartest in my class. I didn't look like all of the other girls. Like I was treated so differently. I was bullied. I was teased. I had it rough. Like you guys, like not even playing around. I had it rough. So to see something so beautiful behind this glass let me know that I was doing something right. Like I was one of those students where I was able to read on the overhead in the main office in the main building because of how good I was reading at an early age. I remember doing this test where, I don't know if you guys remember this in elementary school, but you know how you would read and things like that and like they would time you? I'm telling you, I ate so many words in a minute. It was wild. And teachers was just so shocked. It was just so amazing to see that I was this kid who just had a love for words, and words were just always my saving grace. And that's the reason why I never let go of words. Like I've always been able to articulate myself in a way where I should have, even when people didn't believe me, even when people thought that I still wasn't worthy enough, I still was able to articulate myself when I needed to. And I think that's also kind of what made me different from the other kids, because it was like what? Like, you know what I mean? And Also, I want to say this too, is that from a very early age, I was always told that I had the gift of words. Like, I would always get told, you have such a way with words. And I'm pretty sure that if you're listening to this, that you're probably someone that experienced that. If you did, let me know in the comments, right? Like, you're just someone who just got it, right? Like, you were just so intuitive, where even at a young age, people will come to you for advice. Let me know your story down in the comments, if you will, right? You can comment down now while I'm talking, if you will, to just kind of, just share your story with me. I want to know. So anyways, so basically, yeah, like, I would be told that I had, a way with words and things of that nature. And it never really dawned on me, because I was just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I just kind of know what to say. But I've always been that way. Like, I've always had this really strong connection with people. I've always had this strong connection with words. And I knew that I was always going to do something with words. I couldn't explain it at that time because I was very young during that time in my life. But I just knew that I would never let go of words, because something in me always told me that I'm going to do something with it. I just didn't know what. Like, when I was younger, I wanted to be a veterinarian, right? And I wanted to work with animals. And I just wanted to do that because I was in love with those kind of things, because I had a really strong connection to nature. Like, I always wanted to be out in nature, right? I always wanted to be in open spaces, like really big open spaces. For those of y'all that don't know me, I'm actually from California, Watts to be exact. I grew up in a Jordan Downs and Nickerson Gardens. Like, if you know, you know. And I grew up in the projects. Like, I, for real, am like a project baby at heart, because that's my upbringing, right? Like, that's honestly, truly, like, where I'm from. Like, I'm from LA. I lived in Watts and whatnot. Like, shout out to my family members that are there and whatnot. So yes, I didn't realize that I would actually be using all of that as I grew older. So anyway, fast forward in like high school, right? I actually used to do hair, right? I used to make my own clothes. Funny, I never talked about these things before. It's so interesting. I used to make my own clothes, do hair, make my own hair care products. For those of y'all that used to buy my oil, let me know, because y'all know back in the day before Magic of Eden was Magic of Eden, I used to make my own body butters, my own African black soap shampoo. I remember when I got married to Robert, to my former husband, I actually made my bridesmaids baskets. Let me know if y'all remember that. Do y'all remember that? I made these baskets and they had like butters in it, oils, shampoo. It was so amazing. And I did everything by hand because I wanted them to have something special. So I made all of these different elements, and I made all these different products, and I put them all in the basket, gave them out as gifts to my bridesmaids and my maid of honor. And it was just so dope. Like, I was one of those. Like, I loved crafting because crafting was my safe space. Like, I felt that I could use my creativity. And it's so funny because even like at that time with me getting married, no one really knew this. And at that time, I didn't say anything, but I was actually undergoing my studies of the universe and witchcraft and, the simulation theory. Like, these are things that I was working on behind the scenes. But anyways, so I would do things like that. And in high school, backtracking a little bit more, back in high school, like I said, I used to make my own clothes. I used to do hair. I was a hustler. Like, I used to have to, if I wanted something, best believe I was going to do something to make some money, meaning, right, that I would use my gifts that I had to make me money. So at that time, to make the extra money, that make the extra cash, I would do hair and I would get clients, and it used to be cool. I used to do a little something back in my day. So anyways, so yes, and I always just knew, like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it better. I'm going to do more with it. I don't know what it is. And every time I would get a client, I would say, at the very end of their appointment, I would say more hair. Because to me, I felt that if you said that, your hair was going to grow. Like, but that was also something passed down, because my aunts, when they did my hair, it was always more hair. Because to us, we believed that if you would say that, and if you would concentrate on your hair growing as you were getting your hair braided or greased, right? Y'all remember the blue magic? If you would be getting your hair greased and braided, then if you said that, then your hair would grow. Sure enough, your hair would grow really, really long. And yeah, so this is basically my background. Like, I used to do all of these different elements. I've always had a strong connection to the things that I did. Every single time I would do something or create something, I will always envision it to be the best that I could possibly be, or that it could possibly be. And that is really what kept me so strongly rooted in my belief that I can always do it. So to answer the question, I feel like, how did I know that I was gifted? It wasn't really until I went through an awakening where I ended up rejecting God altogether. Like, I got tired of feeling like that this man would come and save me, or I got tired of feeling like this being that they put in the Christian Bible was the one that was meant to come and save me, that there would be someone coming back to save us. Like, I just was like, you know what? I don't believe in that, because what kind of a God would put a bunch of people, especially us, like, why would you allow us to be enslaved? And then why would you allow me and other women like me and other little girls like me to go through trauma and pain and be abused and right, and go through all of these different elements, right? And why would you allow us to go through that and not save us or send us a savior? I don't get it. So it wasn't until I went through this awakening where I got really tired of feeling like I was a victim. I got tired of feeling like I wanted to wait for somebody to come and save me, and I rejected God. And then that's when I started to understand through my studies that, oh my goodness, God is not someone, obviously, that is meant to, that's outside of you that saves you. God is within you, as above, so below, as within, so without. Like, that is what God is. We are the real, like, we are God's, right? And I started to really decode the Bible, let us make man in our image, and all these different elements. I'm not here to talk about that, but I'm just saying, I used to decode these things. And then that's when I understood, like, wow, we have such a strong connection to the universe. And then my craft with witchcraft deepened. I started studying the occult. I started studying tarot, and I started studying astrology, and I started to put all of these things together. And in 2019, Magic of Eden was born. And I just knew, like, I always had a really strong intuition. I always knew what to say. I always knew how to help people. I didn't even know. Like, it just came so naturally. And I didn't understand why I was born this way. Like, well, not that I was born this way, but I didn't understand how I was able to help people so effectively. I didn't understand how I knew these things about people. Like, there would be times where people would say things to me, and I would either finish their sentences, or I would just tell them exactly how they felt without them really having to convey anything. Or they would say something and they would have trouble, and I would be like, oh, okay, so you mean this. And then they'd be like, wow, like, yeah, like, how did you get that? And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? And honestly, I didn't. And it wasn't until I started to use things like crystals and wands and crystal balls and books that you can see behind me, right? It wasn't until I started to really get really deep into that where I started to put everything together, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm passionate about. And then it wasn't until later I started again merging the arts of poetry and magic, because I've always been good with words. I've always been good with helping people. And I want to go back to high school really quickly. I actually used to be the person that people would go to help them, like, with their poems and their writing. It used to just be so dope. And because I just had such a really strong connection to words. And I did not always I did not always believe in myself. Like, I did not always think, oh, I could do it, because I had such a really strong issue with really believing in myself, because my Chiron is in Virgo in the 5th house. So I had a really hard time expressing myself in a personal way, right? Like, I could articulate myself when it came to helping people and things of that nature, but it was really hard for me to really come out and be personal. So anyways, I mean, to be honest with you, this is how I knew that I was gifted. It wasn't until I started to take myself seriously where I figured out that I could actually take this and I can build with it. And then that's when I started to do more of my oil making. You know, I would do research, I would read, I would study, and I will also, for the most, I would also follow my intuition. A lot of the things that I learned with Magic of Eden was purely intuitive. And then I would look to books to see, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? Like, I would get this hunch, right? During my meditations, I would receive messages and I would receive downloads and whatnot. And then from there, I would go to seek it in the book. And if I found it in the book, I felt, okay, cool. This validates it. And this actually gives me like a further explanation. So I'm always going to look to a book. It makes sense that I would look to a book, because I feel like for me, obviously, strong connection to books, I need to know what I'm doing. And again, for the most part, it was purely intuitive. So that's essentially how I knew that I was gifted. I am a gifted dreamer. I can hear things, I can smell things, I can taste things, right? And I can also feel things like very deeply. And I think that when I struggled growing up, it's because I had this really strong connection to people. I felt like there was either something wrong with me or there must have been something wrong with other people for treating people that way, right? For treating people, for hitting them and abusing them and like making them suffer like to that degree, right? Like I'm not talking about just like a pop, or I'm not talking about a kid just pushing you. No, I'm talking about your ass getting hit for real. And like that's what I mean. So I didn't understand at that time what it all meant. But then it wasn't until I started to really take that pain and take that anger and then direct it in a space where I can control it and then make it work for me. And then that's when I started to really get good at manifesting, really get good at redirecting my energy, and really get good with understanding people and doing tarot readings and doing astrology readings and just so many things that I'm super passionate about, right? And now down the line, and this is like over a 10-year journey. Like, and I'm talking like a lot of my experience came from me doing like in-person one-on-ones with people and me doing things behind the scenes. And I'm just now in a space where I can be a lot more, what is the word I'm looking for? I can be a lot more consistent. Also, at a very young age, I would see things before they would happen. And it used to be in like the smallest things. Like, for example, me, my mom, and my brother, one of my brothers, when we were younger, we used to play punch buggy. So in that game, essentially what you do is that if you see a punch buggy, you will punch the other person and they say punch buggy. But of course we couldn't punch our mom. So we would just yell out punch buggy. So I have this memory of us just kind of like going like under this freeway. And I can't remember where we were going. I think we might have been going home. Or we might have been going to go pick up my stepdad at the time. I can't really remember. But we were traveling down the freeway, and I remember just kind of stopping and pausing and just like looking into space. And I remember like looking up and I saw this black punch buggy going over the overhead on the freeway. You know how you go like under the bridge, like under that freeway, under that part? I saw a punch buggy up at the top, right? So then I'm like, okay, I thought it was real, but then I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So anyway, so I'm looking, and next thing you know, in my waking life, in like real life, I saw that same black punch buggy. I just so happened to look, and then I saw that same black punch buggy, and I yelled, punch buggy. And then I was like, Mom, I knew I was gonna see it. I knew it. I just seen it. And she was like, okay, like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, she's like, okay, I guess. And I guess to her, she was probably like, well, yeah, because it's up there. But to me, I'm like, no, but like I had already seen it, and I tried to explain it. I was like, Mom, I saw it already. Like, I seen it, and then after that, it happened. Like, I seen it in my mind first, and then it happened. And so she kind of got quiet. I think she kind of knew. We didn't really go into anything after that, but my mom was pretty intuitive. I feel like she knew. Like, my mom is a Sagittarius, so with them, you guys know that they're all open, for the most part. They're open to different religions and different faiths and different paths and whatnot, and they can be very intuitive too. So I'm guessing that she kind of knew. Like, even if she doesn't remember this memory, I'm gonna bring it to her attention and see, and then I'll come back and I'll report it to you guys, okay? So I feel like, honestly, like, that's just the backstory on how I knew that I was gifted. I really didn't know. I thought it was something wrong with me, but it wasn't until I started to take myself seriously where I understood, okay, Cass, you have a gift, man. Like, just come on, you have a gift, and it's okay for you to be gifted, right? As long as you're using it for good. And because I made an oath to always use my gifts for good, that is the reason why I keep going, because no matter what, I'm always going to do whatever I possibly can to serve my soul tribe. It has always been that way, and they always will be that way. No matter how big or famous I get, whatever, like I mean, I don't know exactly what the future holds, right? But no matter how or what kind of status I get, I will always be here to serve my tribe. I made an oath. I made a pact with myself, right? I did blood magic to seal the deal with me, myself, right? So that I can ensure that I'm always walking in alignment, because that is what I'm here to do. I'm here to help people transcend beyond their pain and their suffering and promote balance, unity, love, and harmony in the world, and I will continue to do that. So yes, what is your story? How did you know that you were gifted? What is the first memory that you have of you having a dream or you having your intuitive downloads and whatnot? Thank you guys so much for listening and hanging out with me. I am just so glad that I finally made this video, and I'm happy that we were able to spend time together. I'm glad that I was able to finally get this out, because it's been a minute. Thank you, and shout out to the beautiful soul that asked this question. You challenged me for real, because I'm not used to sharing myself in this way or to this capacity and this type of vibe. And the reason is because I'm used to kind of just showing up for you guys without having these story times and whatnot. So I guess this was definitely needed. So thank you so much for asking me that question. If y'all have any more questions that you want to ask me, let me know down in the comments. Like if there's something that you want to get to know about me, let me know. If there's something that you want to know about regarding my crafts or my spiritual beliefs, because I know that I really want to build community. That's where I'm headed now. And for those of you guys that got the email today, this video will actually be edited tonight, which I don't have to do like a lot of hard editing because I did just like a lot of talking. So anyways, I'm gonna be sending this video or linking this in a new email. I'm really glad that we were able to spend some time here today. I would like for you guys please to subscribe to this YouTube channel because I'm going to be making a lot more videos. I'm going to be like making a lot more content, and I've also got some things cooking under the radar because I do plan on growing and expanding beyond social media. I want to get into the real world. I want to go out into the community and do some work. I can't tell you guys exactly what I've got cooking up, but just know that in the future, we're going to be having more in-person things. Let me just say that. So anyways, yes, also make sure that you send this to a loved one or a friend or a family member that would benefit from this video, or well, not benefit, but send it to someone that you think will be interested in it, who would be interested in my work. Let me know the kind of products or spiritual essentials that you guys would need down in the comments. What are some things that you want me to create? What videos that you guys want me to make? I am so happy and excited to be serving you all. And if you guys need anything from me, visit me online at CassandraTurner.com. You guys can also visit me over on Instagram at Magic of Eden. Thank you all so much for spending time with me here today. I love you, and I'll catch you in my next video.